I hope I'm audible and visible to all of you. Can you see me and hear me?
Hello, I can see
Hello.
you and hear you.
Awesome, awesome. So let's begin our session for today. Sit comfortably, keep your back and neck straight. And when you feel ready, very gently close your eyes. Start observing your breathing. Watch each inhalation and each exhalation without making any changes. Now gently shift your attention to your body. Become aware of your posture. Adjust your body so that you are correctly aligned. Now gently come back to your breathing. Begin to deepen the breath. Slow, long and deep breaths. We will open today's session by chanting Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Take a deep breath in for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just feel the vibrations. Join both your palms together. Begin to rub your palms together. Keep your palms on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, begin to open up your eyes, coming back with a big smile on your face. Om Shanti. Namaste to everyone. So let us begin our session for today. Today we are going to talk about another school of yoga, right? And we have covered Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, and today we are going to talk about Jnana Yoga. Okay, this is the path of wisdom. So first two parts that we have discussed, they are very easy to incorporate in life. And I have said this again and again, right? No matter where you live, what you do, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are very easy to practice. And then comes in the school of yoga, which is not that easy to practice. Okay, so Gyan Yoga is not very easy to practice. And I will give you or tell you why it is so. Gyan yogis are generally born. They are not like you will generally find the stories of Gyan yogis who are born. That doesn't mean that you cannot start on the path, right? But in order to be developed enough to understand this entire path only, it requires certain level of uh, development and understanding beforehand, right? So, based on past merits, sorry, based on past merits, the Gyan Yogi is generally born. So, when I am talking to you, or the Guru is talking to the Gyan Yogi, so there is this level of understanding which can which you are only born with. You can develop it, but not too much, right? So, Gyan is literally your wisdom, right? And there is a big difference between knowledge and wisdom, okay? So, even though the initial practices are mechanical and they might seem to be more in alignment with knowledge, eventually the goal is to come down to wisdom, right? So let me give you an example. So right now you are learning asanas, right? So in your asan class, your teacher is able to do a particular asan, okay? So now you try to copy them, or maybe you read from a book, okay, this asan, this is the technique, this is how you do it. And then in your practical class, you actually begin to do it, right? So now when you start to go for that practice, you see what what are the differences between what was written and then when you were actually practicing, what difference you are seeing in both the things, right? You are following the same technique, but there is a gap, right? A gap which no book can like compensate for, right? So this gap where you make mistakes, you understand your body better and you see how you can do that particular asana properly, that is actually the wisdom that you developed when you did a practice that was given to you. Okay, so it is your wisdom, it is your experience, and based on that experience you then again, if you approach a similar asana, or if you have to teach somebody, right? Suppose you have to teach another student that same asana, so that same asana you are teaching, but even in that you will learn something new, or you will be able to give guidance to the student because you yourself have walked through that path and you know what is the difference between like just reading it and what the book is missing out, and then what what you are gaining when you are actually doing the practice, right? That is why you guys are here, right? So you could have found multiple books, and I keep suggesting you books also at the end of classes. you have manuals, you have even pre-recorded videos which explain the concepts to you, but still you show up in the live classes because again there is this difference in the transmission of knowledge, and you are not looking for merely books when you sign up for a course, for any course, not just this one. For any course, if you sign up, if you want to learn, you do try to stay connected to whatever classes are happening or whoever is teaching you, right? So this is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And wisdom is very unique to each and every one of us, right? So from the same incident, I could come out with some other conclusion and you could have some other conclusion altogether. Your conclusion will help you to lead your life and mine will help me to lead my life, right? So Gyan Yoga is all about acquiring this information and uh, processing it and turning it into wisdom, right? That is why it is also called the path of wisdom. So when Arjun was also standing in the war at that point of time, Krishna ji, he explained the path of Gyan Yoga to Arjun. And in that, he really emphasized this thing that Gyan Yoga is one path. Even a person who has a lot of sins or has an accumulation of a big number of sins, they can also get free because of the path of Gyan Yoga, right? So from today onwards, if you feel that your mind is quite dominant, so a lot of students come up, they ask a lot of questions also, right? So if you feel you have a very questioning mind, and if you feel that finding an answer for that, it helps you, this is your personality, then you can choose to walk on the path of Gyan Yoga, right? So now Gyan Yoga is not about acquiring information. Okay, so a lot of people on Gyan Yoga, they lose their way because all they are doing now is reading the Vedas, reading the Upanishads. Vedas and Upanishads form the base of the concept of Gyan Yoga. So first reason why Gyan Yoga is not for everybody, because it is very hard to read and to understand the Vedas and Upanishads. These are, I told you, in very, very the language, everything that was used, it was very, very specific. So not everybody could read the Vedas. If you go in ancient times also, people were taught, people took years and years of training in order to, understand the Vedas only, right? So first reason why Gyan Yoga is so difficult, if back then training was there and still it was difficult, it was not meant for everybody, then today we don't have a lot of people who are teaching or who themselves understand the Vedas properly, right? So first reason why it becomes very hard is this. Now, second reason why it is very hard to walk on the path of Gyan Yoga is because of the nature of the school itself. Okay, so Gyan Yoga is no, like I'm not reading fiction, I'm not reading some biography, right? Gyan Yoga is about reading the things which are getting you in connection with the ultimate reality, right? And the ultimate reality is not that hard to digest. Sorry, it's not that easy to digest. Okay, so now all of us know that if you are born one day, whatever is born, it's going to die, right? But we are nowhere ready for this truth, are we? Most of our lives we run away from this truth, the truth of death, right? And we do everything in our lives so that we can remain a little bit more distracted from this reality. And then, God forbid, somebody around us falls very ill, right? We come in touch with this reality. We could actually lose that person forever, right? So the reality is always existing, but we are putting in so much effort in our day-to-day lives to ignore that reality. So are we in touch with the universal truths? I would say no. Most of us, most of the people, they are not in touch with the ultimate realities, with the realities that really count. Okay. So Hence, it becomes very difficult for even a beginner to walk on the path of Gyan. There is already some level of training that has to be given to the mind through Karma and Bhakti Yoga, right? Because as soon as I, discuss any kind of truth, it becomes very hard to accept that thing. And because it is so hard to accept that thing, a lot of people who begin their journey to walk on the path of Gyan Yoga, they end up leaving this path. Right? Means they are not prepared. Because Gyan Yoga is not an easy path. Right? That is why it is not meant for everybody. Right? Only few limited people they have been able to walk on this. Yeah. So second reason why Gyan Yoga becomes very hard to pursue is this. Now, third reason why Gyan Yoga becomes very hard to pursue is because your development should be such, right? So now, you have 1 hour class, you sit in 1 hour class. So this is completely theoretical, right? So like I was in one class also narrating the story of Shivji when he was giving the knowledge to Parvati ji, right? And Parvati ji, she, slept right in between because he was speaking so continuously and it went on for a very long period of time, right? So same goes for the Gyan Yogi, when the Gyan Yogi, they find the Guru and they, devote themselves entirely to their practice, not much is in their control, right? So your body, your mind, everything through the continuous practices of Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, it is prepared so that you become ready, not only to observe what is being told to you, but also to be bodily and mentally ready, right? So right now what happens, you are attending some class, half people they sleep in the class, right, with eyes open. It's very true, it happens. It's nothing it's nothing out of the blue that I'm talking about. In most places, if you visit most classes, their mind is somewhere else and their body is somewhere else, right? So they're just sitting in the class because they're supposed to, right? That is how education system is going on, right? So for the Gyan Yogi, it is very important that the mind is there where the body is, and listening is an art that they develop. Okay, so when they listen to what is being told to them, it is only then that they can get in a position where they validate it or discard it completely, right? So Gyan Yogi never accepts what is being told to them, right? So suppose I tell you this is the truth, XYZ is the truth, right? So Gyan Yogi will validate this thing. Unless and until this thing is not validated by the Gyan Yogi, it is not true for them. All right. So Gyan Yoga is again a path which is asking for your devotion, no doubt, but it is asking you to bring the things on your experience, right? If it is not on your experience, if I tell you there is God, right, and I tell you there is this God only, right? So now, okay, you have faith in me, I am guiding you, so you believe me, right? But your belief is only limited to the extent of the faith you have in me. Your direct experience does not tell you that this God exists or that God exists. So you should not validate that thing just merely because somebody is saying that. Okay. The Gyan Yogi goes into deep analysis, right? Because the Gyan Yogi is using the mind. Okay, so now another reason why this form of yoga is harder to pursue is because the mind can, make a fool out of you. Okay, so believe it or not, most of your lives, your mind is fooling you. Nobody else in your life is fooling you. Your mind is fooling you, right? So, mind is this tool, you can say, which is very hard to train, right? And it's you have to proceed with it very carefully, right? Because you will not understand when it fools you, right? You will think that you got away with something or you had the right approach, and later in life you might realize that it was just your mind fooling you. That is why a lot of us end up regretting later what we have done, right? Because the mind knows the exact weaknesses and the exact ways in which it can target us to get us away from this entire process where we are trying to train it, right? So when the Gyan Yogi is using the mind to train the mind only, right, to channel and direct the mind, there is a very big chance to lose the way. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, not too much, right? So again, Gyan Yoga is not a path for everyone. So now let's talk about the basic premise of the path of Gyan Yoga. First thing I want to clarify: if you are, reading up a lot, you are in touch with the reality, that is great. Okay. But if you merely get stuck over there, which is going on in most of the world, then you should really question yourselves, right? Because the path of Gyan Yoga is supposed to liberate you, not burden you with more information. So what people do, they read up a lot, right? They read everything, and then they, for the sake of fun or for the sake of just contradicting some other tradition, they, intellectually have these debates, right? And some debates are good, they are healthy, right? But they have mindless debates. They just want to prove that they are superior or they are better, right? Means you are not on the path of Gyan Yoga. In fact, you never understood what Gyan Yoga is. Okay, so that is not Gyan Yoga. But a part of it is to get in touch with the texts which will help you to stay in touch with the reality. Okay, so the main focus point is staying in touch with reality. It could be any text. It could, for if seen from the Indian perspective, because yoga is Indian philosophy, like I said. So the Vedas and the Upanishads are considered to be the major sources of information. You study them, you deeply analyze what is being said, and then you, through your practice, come to conclusions, right? So, the main premise of Gyan Yoga is that there is this there is this term that is used in Gyan Yoga, which is called avidya, okay, ignorance. Avidya or ignorance. AVIDYA. 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 So the main reason why everybody is, so sometimes, you know the things. So you should wake up in the morning, or maybe you should exercise for 30 minutes in a day, right? XYZ. I'm just taking hypothetical examples. But you are unable to do those things, aren't you? When you know something is good for you, or suppose you are having a very bad day, right? On that day, the probability of you skipping your practice is much higher. Despite knowing that that is when you need it the most, you skip that, right? So there is a big gap between what we know and what we do. All right. And the Gyan Yogi recognizes this gap. So, like, I can talk to you about 10 things, right? But as much as I practice, that is the only amount of experience I will gain, right? You can lecture me about 10 things, right, in the same way, and tell me, you should approach this situation like this, like that. But again, if you are not practicing, or if what you have said, it doesn't make me practice, then again, Gyan Yoga believes the knowledge and the practice should go together. Okay, that is what leads to wisdom, right? Knowledge alone will not sustain you, right? And experience alone, again, it will not sustain you. You need to have an understanding of what kind of experience you are having, right? So Gyan Yoga says that this is actually because of the existence of ignorance, that we know a lot of things, but we are unable to act upon them. Or there is 0 or 10-20% of implementation only, right? Despite everything we do, there is a gap between these two. right? So the reason is avidya, which confuses us between what is real and what is not real, what is true, what is untrue, right? What is the permanent thing in our lives and what is the temporary thing, right? So now if I tell you, everything around you is temporary, so you will listen to me, you will be fine that she's saying this thing. And then once you step out of this lecture, you are going back to the same habits, the same ways of living. And how are you living? Thinking that life is forever, right? Most of us, we lead our lives in that way. In fact, society is designed in this way, to make us believe that we will live forever, right? So, as per Indian like society, I can give you examples. So, people are supposed to have a home by this age, they should have this kind of permanent job by this age, right? So everything in the society, all the advertisements, everything is being pushed in the society because people believe that they will live forever, right? But that is not the case. So we are out of touch of this reality. And when do you come in touch with this reality? When you do meditation, right? The Gyan Yogi gives a lot of importance to the practices of meditation because they know that there is only one way in which they can observe these things, this reality, and that is when rather than shift the focus from outside to inside, right? If I can see that one experience is happening for me, right, I can validate that, okay, it might be happening around me, right? But if it isn't happening for me, how will I validate that, right? So avidya or ignorance is the big barrier, right? There is another very big barrier which Gyan Yoga, puts into view, that is called Maya, Maya. This is the illusion, right? So there is ignorance and then there is illusion, right? Like I said, we are living our lives thinking, oh, this is permanent, this is permanent. If you buy a house, even that is permanent, right? Because we have defined the notion, right, of stability in that way, or whatever way in which you do, right? I'm just taking hypothetical examples to explain everything to you, right? But after a lot of years, if you come back, you will see maybe that building is gone altogether, right? So there is this great illusion around us, right, which is forcing us into the ignorance. Okay, so ignorance is also not just like coming from anywhere, it's not coming out of the blue, right? It is the illusion that is keeping this entire system running, right? And Maya or illusion is very strong in its nature, right? One doesn't want to get out of it normally, right? Osho has talked very beautifully about this thing, and he says that a person who is having a good life or is enjoying the worldly objects, they will never come into practices like you. Why? Because they are still getting so much bliss out of the worldly things, right? So nature gives you an opportunity, every once in a while to come out of this ignorance, to come out of this illusion, right? And how does it like come into your life? It comes in the form of deep level of suffering. When you suffer, you stop enjoying the objects. Have you ever observed this thing? When you are suffering, or you are in a very sad mood, everything that you used to like, you don't like anymore, right? Unless and until you don't come out of that state of mind, you don't enjoy that thing anymore, right? You might use it as a distraction, it's okay, but you don't really enjoy that thing, right? So the sense object loses its sense when suffering comes in, right? So Osho says suffering is a good thing, you know. It is the thing which is getting you like in touch with the calling of the nature. The nature is calling you to work on yourself, to work on your true self. You could have Netflixed, you could have gone out for a few drinks, but you chose to come over here in yoga, right? Most of the world, if you see, they are when the sense objects they disturb them, they move towards other sense objects which can please them, right? So you're not coming out of the sense objects only, right? So you will never be able to come out of that, because if one object is giving you suffering, then if you go to other object, right, after some point, that is also bound to give you suffering only, right? So you are choosing the same way over and over again. So how can you expect to come out of your suffering, right? So the Gyan Yogi at this point of time, like you guys, there is a level of Gyan Yoga within you as well. That you joined yoga for any reason you could have joined. But as the classes proceed, you understand the deeper meaning, right? Why you are doing this thing. So there it's like most of the students who come and take classes, I really tell this thing to them, right? The common factor keeping all of you glued to the classes is your suffering, right? And it is not something to be ashamed of, it is something good, because you heard the right call, right? You got here, you got on a path which has the potential to liberate you or free you from all of your sufferings. Now your target is not just being free from one or two, or whatever life has to offer you, at least you can counteract and you can you know still remain, you can still survive, right? Now the path you are on, the level of cleansing that will take place in this path, you will be free from all of your sufferings, right? And this is exactly what the nature calls for, right? When it gives you suffering in your life. And Gyan Yoga says the only way to remove this suffering, it is through the knowledge. Okay. Okay. It calls this knowledge discrimination. Discrimination or Vivek. Vivek. Right. So Vivek is, as you can see from the term itself, Vivek is not just the knowledge, right? Discrimination develops when you do something. A kid is really fascinated by fire. Okay, kids generally are very fascinated by things that you know look a certain way, right? So the kid runs towards fire, and out of fascination goes and tries to touch that fire, right? And as soon as they touch the fire, they get this discrimination. This thing develops in them that this thing is going to hurt me. So no matter how fascinating it seems, touching this is equivalent to pain, right? So it is only through the discrimination that you can come out of the ignorance, right? There is no other way. If 10 people keep preaching to you, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. First thing, these rights and wrongs, they change. You go to some other part of the world, right and wrong will change for you. You come here, right and wrong will change for you, right? So one thing, you are not in touch with the ultimate reality, right? And then another thing, that if somebody for your entire life just keeps telling you, do this, do that, this is right, this is wrong, it's not going to again do anything for you, right? Unless and until you develop your own discrimination. All of you would have had some experiences which led you to some conclusions, right? And now you lead your life in that way. That next time this thing happens, this is how I'm going to act. This is the right way for me to act, or this is what suits my personality, right? So, what did you do? Through your experiences, you develop discrimination, right, on how you want to lead your life, right? So Gyan Yogi just does this on a different level. So we all develop our own belief systems and our own discrimination to navigate through life. But Gyan Yogi, they change the goal. Right now, their goal is to be free from all sufferings. Right, the goal is not to, just stay with their belief system or anything XYZ, any other thing. Their goal changes completely, right? Which leads them to their final stage at the end, right? In Gyan Yoga, there is another thing which is very important, and that thing is that Gyan Yoga believes that you are the essence of um, the energy that is existing around you, right? So it believes in the concept of a soul, right? Individual consciousness, and it calls it Atma. ATMAN, individual consciousness. Okay, so this becomes the point for the Gyan Yogi to meditate upon, right? So if you think, what is the Gyan Yogi meditating upon, because there is one object in meditation, you stay with that. So it is their pure selves. Okay, so we have a lot of, like yesterday in Bhakti Yoga also I was explaining, there is a lot of dirt, right? But there is this essential quality, right? So in that same way, as per the system of Gyan Yoga, there is the existence of the individual consciousness. You can name it soul, right? So this energy within you, right? The Gyan Yogi meditates upon this energy because they want to, again, when when the object is so pure in nature, you start getting in touch with that thing or that reality, right? So this is the basic premise of Gyan Yoga that I have explained to you. Any doubts so far? Any questions, queries? Okay, all right. So if you have anything, you can write it down in the chat box again. If you open Bhagavad Gita, you will find the concept of Gyan Yoga in chapter 4. Right. So very famous examples of Gyan Yogis, Swami Vivekanand is considered to be one of them. And even Siddharth Gautam, famously known as Buddha, he also, is a good example of a Gyan Yogi. And if you see Buddha's life in general, it didn't take him a lot of things to come to this realization that there was suffering, right? So for us, it comes in breaks and pieces, right? So today, if I say, oh, this is one reality of life, today maybe you will remain very numb, you will stay in touch with this reality, and from tomorrow, you will start forgetting it. Or for some people, it might happen as soon as the class ends and they forget, right? But the Gyan Yogi, like I said, comes very deeply in touch with this thing, and then it becomes very hard for them to turn back. So if you look at Siddharth Gautam's life also, when he was born, generally when somebody is born, they're taken to some kind of priest, and predictions about their life, we get them, right? So most likely you, me, we already have some predictions about our lives, right? So in that same way, when Siddharth Gautam, he was born, his father took him to the priest. So when he took him to the priest said that either your son will be a great king or your son will turn out to be a great saint, right? So now in for the person to take the throne, the person had to be very capable, right? So the king wanted and understood that his son should take the kingdom, and it's very hard to find a capable king, right? So he wanted Siddhartha Gautam only to manage the kingdom after he was gone. So now, out of fear that he might become a saint, leave everything behind, his father, raised him up in a way where, he kept him in the kingdom, right? And the space was quite big. There was no restriction as such, right? He had great gardens. He had a very big palace to himself. And his father made sure he got all luxuries in life. And he saw, amazing art forms also, like dance, everything, So he gave his son the best of facilities, the most money that anybody could experience. What more money than the money that the king has, right? So his son got all the facilities. But somewhere or the other, Siddharth Gautam, he was, you know, the mind generally captures what it cannot get. So in that same way, he knew he could not go out, right? So he always had this desire to move out, right? To go out and explore the rest of the kingdom, right? Apart from his area, right? So one point of time, this did happen that he stepped out. He was able to go out, and when he did, he encountered really sorry about that. Some network issue. Okay, so I was talking about Siddharth Gautam's life. So he had basically had everything, and when he stepped out, he got in touch with certain realities. So now for us, if suppose we are confined in a particular place, we step out, and we would want to have all the fun. We will probably not even notice what is going on around, right? But that is why I said Gyan Yogi is born, right? But look at him. When he stepped out, he saw the realities. And not only did he see the realities of life, he observed them, and he had a strong realization within himself, right? So he saw disease, he saw old age. Till then, he had only seen beautiful women and a lot of wealth, and there being just beauty and everything being good, basically, right? So when he stepped out, he saw disease, he saw death, right? And at that point of time, this deep realization set upon him that this is going to happen to me also, and this is not only going to happen to me, it's going to happen to everybody, right? Old age is like it's there, right? It's going to happen at some point of time or the other, right? So the Gyan Yogi has a deep realization which leads them to leave whatever they have known behind, to look for the ultimate answers, right? So if you see Siddharth Gautam's life also, he took the permission of his wife. He had a beautiful child and a beautiful wife. So he took the permission and he left them because he knew that if one thing he could do for everybody around him was to find a solution to come out of this suffering. It is such a big form of suffering when your body it's not working, you are not able to do something, right? Isn't it? Or if you have parents or somebody in your life who is very old, right, and you are constantly worried about them. So I live away from my family, right? My dad, he's getting older by the day, right? So it keeps bothering me. It's on my mind all the time, right? To how I can, take a little bit better care for him. I want to be there, right, to care for him better. So this is what a constant form of suffering only you can say that I'm constantly worried. You guys might be constantly worried for somebody who is there in your life like that in that stage. So he wanted to find a solution because he saw that this will not stop. This is how the nature is, right? This is how the nature is. It makes no exception, right? Be it any animal, be it any, if we call the human being, that human being to be not having a good status in the society to a human being who has great status in the society, everybody is bound to have certain uh, experiences, right? And aging is one of them, right? So he wanted to look for the ultimate solution, which led him to leave everything behind, right? So again, that is why I said we are not ready for Gyan Yog, because even when we have this realization, we are still not concerned about it. We put most of our energy, trying to avoid it, right? Avoid this thing, not be in touch with this thing, right? So he left everything behind. It took him long time, lot of years, but he did not leave his practices, and he reached the final goal, where he got free from all the sufferings. And then in his time, when he taught the people, so whoever followed his path, they followed the technique of Vipassana. He taught Vipassana meditation. So whoever followed that thing was, wise enough to understand the technique. They freed themselves, right? So his wife also, eventually he taught his wife, his mom, everybody, right? So they also got liberated, right? Just by following the technique. So for the Gyan Yogi, at every point of time, they are supporting the information with the experience. There is no gap between both the things, right? And if you look at the general path that you can follow, if you want to practice Gyan Yoga, there is this concept called Sadhana Chatushtay. This is again pertaining to the school of Gyan Yoga only, right? SADHANA, Sadhana Chatushtay. Sorry, Chatushtay spelling is wrong. Chatushtay, CHATUSHTAYA, Sadhana Chatushtay, or the four pillars of Gyan Yoga. Right, these are the four pillars of Gyan Yoga. These are the starting point, you can say. So these are the four pillars. When you build these four pillars, okay, then you can move towards the core practices. So these four pillars, like the pillars that are holding the house, right? The stronger they are, the better you get at the core practices. And these themselves are not, you can say, uh, very easy to practice, not very hard also. So they also develop you for the core practices. Okay, they make you ready, and your a lot of virtues that you have, they get tested over here, and you develop the virtues also. So one of the pillars is development of certain virtues, right? So tomorrow we will discuss these and the core practices. If you want to read more deeply, again, Bhagavad Gita is the book for you, fourth chapter. And again, Swami Vivekananda, like I told you before, he has written books on all four schools of yoga. So if you feel like it, if you want to, you can buy all four of them to have one book on each school of yoga. Any doubts, questions, queries? Any difficulties? Okay. So For today, what you can practice, Gyan Yoga is all about the, okay, thank you. Yeah, so no doubts. Okay, so for today, what you can do, activity for you can take out some time and you can look for any book which, helps you to get connected to the ultimate realities of life, and you can take some time to read that today. Okay, so that will count as one of the practices of Gyan Yoga, right? So let's close our session for today. Keep the back and neck straight. Gently close your eyes. We will chant Om one time, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Join your palms together and gently bow down. Begin to rub your palms together. Keep them on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, begin to open up your eyes. Om Shanti. Namaste to everyone. I will see you guys tomorrow for your philosophy class. So take care, guys, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.